I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, I'm delighted to introduce you to a very talented author. His name is Paul J. Krause, and he has a riveting book out. It is called Local Yokels. He takes a deep dive into the close-knit brotherhood of the fire service as Bootknife and the Local Yokels of Uville navigate their way through the most demanding week, showcasing bravery, dedication, and resilience. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Authors Reputation Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Paul, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Crawford.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you can call me Logan. Got a quick question for you, Paul. Let's do the big picture. Tell the folks at home what the book Local Yokels is about. Give them an overview.
So the book's about a group of men and women that are volunteer firefighters, as well as some paid firefighters that end up running into the most demanding, week of their fire service career up until that point. Multiple days of fires every day, which is not something that is, a normal occurrence in a small town.
Exactly. Often it could be weeks or even months go by before you have a distinguishable event, but this puts the entire fire department to the test. Tell me a little bit about what the inspiration is behind the book.
So I was in between my junior or senior year of college at the University of Hartford. That spring, I had taken American Lit class, and one of the books that we read was The French Revolution by Matthew Stewart. And I thought it was very unique and super cool because he wrote his book on Twitter. And he took a bunch of his Twitter, all of the Twitter posts, and turned it into a book, and it became quite successful. So I thought about it after that class, and that summer I had some downtime, and so I just started compiling these stories. These aren't totally true events, but most of them are at least real events, real people, and I wanted to put it together. I wrote the story, probably took about a month and a half or so, and then I found a company that would print the book. I had it printed, and gave the copies out to the characters in the book, the actual people, and I got some pretty positive feedback from it. So then I looked into getting it published, and here we are today.
That's wonderful. So did you ever work with the fire service, or did you just do research? Tell us about that research and how you found out about all these intricacies of the fire service.
So I'm a volunteer firefighter. I have been since 2005. I also currently work full-time as a firefighter for a large industrial company. So all of the technical references and, the events either are from my education through the different certifications I've obtained over the years, as well as personal experiences up until the point of that book. I had been fairly lucky in the sense that I've had the ability to practice my craft by responding to a number of fires in town, out of town, extrications, and I got to work with all of these fine people that are, like I said, the characters became the characters in the book.
Tell us a little bit about Bootknife and the significance in the story.
So Bootknife is loosely referenced, or it's a reference of myself as the main character. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps. When I got out and got back into volunteering very actively immediately after, I ended up getting the nickname Bootknife because I always carried a pocket knife around. So I used that as the main character's name, and then everything that he does or experience. I used to smoke, so that's why there's smoking references in there. I had a Dodge Charger at the time, so that's why I put that in there. So and all of the personal relationships that you see between Bootknife and the characters in the book are all based on actual personal relationships that I have with these people still today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell us how you captured the essence of brotherhood among firefighters in your book.
So honestly, I think it's just through the stories. I tried to make them as real and to try to put that passion, that love that we have for each other. I tried to just express that in the words. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but it is a true brotherhood, a true sisterhood. We rely on each other to get home at the end of the day. So when your life is in somebody else's hands, you tend to become rather close quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're watching each other's back like that, whether you're in the Marines or the fire service or the fire department or police department, you create a brotherhood. You become like brothers for sure, because your lives depend on it. Tell me a little bit about the description in the book of the busiest consecutive fire period in the department's history. How did you conceptualize this intense scene and scenario?
So shortly before I got out of the Marine Corps, there was a 6-day stretch where there were 5 fires. Unfortunately, I missed that week because I was still in the service, but that was probably hands down the busiest week that I had ever heard of, at least in recent history. So what I did was I tried to capture the energy, the stories that I had, heard from the guys that had responded to those fires. And then I just took fires that I had responded to after that period and put them into those days.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the setting. Where is the story set? Tell us a little bit about, the place, the time, all that stuff.
So Uville is based on Unionville, which is a section of Farmington, which is the town that I grew up in and live in Connecticut. It is it's a smaller town, kind of a bedroom community. We're right outside of a couple major cities, but we have a very diverse, response area across town between commercial structures, residential areas, and some industrial as well as we have a small airport that borders right up against the town line. So it's it was a great place to grow up. It's a great place to live, and I wanted to try to capture that as well in the book. It's not a major metropolitan city, but there's small towns across the United States where first responders are getting it done every single day to protect the lives and property of the folks in the community.
Exactly. Farmington, I'm familiar with it. It's kind of a blend of suburban and rural. You have farms
Yes,
there,
sir.
and you have little suburban centers there as well. But these are the towns, like you said, that people across the United States live in. And these are the towns where people serve, gratis. They don't get paid. They're volunteers for most of it. So that's a terrific service to our nation and to the community, don't you think?
Absolutely. These are neighbors serving neighbors. Most of the time, especially in the smaller towns, you're responding to people's houses that you know. So it's that much more important, and it becomes, a true personal piece to be able to make sure that the skill set that you have obtained, you can use to provide services to, neighbors that don't have those.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about striking a balance between the technical aspects of firefighting and the emotional journey of the characters.
So, firefighting, especially into the 21st century, it's become a very technical piece. When my father, my uncle, family members before were in the fire service, it was still they wwere still doing things that were fairly rudimentary, and it was through them technologies and been developed, and new techniques and tactics. So there's a much bigger demand for fire service personnel to be higher trained and certified today than back in the 60s, the 50s, and earlier. So it's becoming a more of a demanding service that becomes difficult for people that are working full-time jobs, whether it's in town or out of town, trying to find that balance to be able to get certified, continue to do training on weekly or monthly basis, and meet those annual requirements that the NFPA and OSHA have set out to ensure that we are being safe and that we are going to be able to continue to provide the best services possible to the people that need it.
I don't think the viewers at home realize just how physically challenging it is to be a firefighter. I've done stories on firefighters, and they've had me train with them a little bit. And by the time you put on the helmet, the jacket, the overalls, the boots, the Scott pack, you're carrying a lot of weight. And then you're, reeling in hoses, you're, using hoses, you're climbing ladders. It's really, really a marathon when you're out there fighting a fire. And some guys are doing it into their 40s and 50s and beyond. It's quite an incredible, endeavor.
Yes, sir. It's very important to make sure that we stay hydrated, that we eat well, that we exercise. Some people are exercise nuts. They're in the gym and everything, and then then you have your average Joe, I like to call them. I kind of put myself into in between those categories, but yes, very physically demanding. The good thing, usually you get that boost of adrenaline that is going to give you that added fuel to get through the incident. But it is extremely physically demanding. So there's also a very important medical aspect to being on the fire service. You have to get annual physicals just to make sure that your heart and the rest of your body is able to handle that demand. You're going from either the middle of a deep sleep to immediately being up and going 100 miles an hour, to either get to the firehouse, to get to the truck, to get to the incident, and like you said, stretching hoses, using tools, forcing entry through buildings. You're in a super hot environment, smoky environment, any poor condition you could think of, we may end up encountering. So it's not for everybody, but I love the people that love doing the job and are getting out there and doing it. And we've had some recent members join our department that they were in their later 40s or early 50s, and they said, "Man, I wish I knew about this 20 years ago." And these people are absolutely amazing. They're stellar firefighters. They're all into it. And, I really wish that we had them 20 years ago as well. But, I'm just glad that, we have the ability to, to serve with these folks today.
Yeah, absolutely. And these guys are like weekend warriors. I mean, they're not full-time firefighters. They're grocery store clerks. They are mechanics. They are accountants. They are all sorts of jobs throughout the community who set everything aside when an alarm comes in, jump in their car with a light, maybe a blue light in many communities that people may or may not react to on the road. You race to the firehouse, like you said, in the middle of the night after being awakened from a deep sleep, and you're putting out basically one of your neighbor's house fires or kitchen fires or something like that.
Absolutely. we're seeing our neighbors, at on their worst day, if they're calling 911, but the men and women that join the fire service, that join the volunteer departments, they're they're the best of the community. They're putting everything on the line, because at a moment's notice something could go wrong and they could either be injured or killed. So like you said, they are all people that make up every job within your local communities, and they're really risking a lot because it is not their full-time job. So if they get injured, they may not be able to go to work.
Right.
And as a volunteer, you're not getting paid. So if you get hurt, there are workers' compensation. There's a workers' compensation side to it, but still, it says a lot about the individual who's willing to work a regular job and then on their off time, respond to these emergencies, even with the risk, as well as we've seen with COVID. It's not just a fire or a fire risk or risking injury at some type of a technical rescue, but also with the emergency medical response. You could end up coming in contact with something and getting sick. So it's, like I said, it says a lot about the men and women that step up and serve their communities, in the fire service, EMS service, or in the police department.
Absolutely. And the firefighters sometimes do all of it. Like you said, they're not only responding to fires, they're also responding to medical calls in many circumstances. And like you said, that person who is in respiratory distress might actually have COVID and you're exposed to it. So these men and women in some cases are really putting all on the line. That's for sure. It's been a long time since Ron Howard created Backdraft, which was a motion picture about firefighters. Have you envisioned Local Yokels being turned into a film or a series by any chance?
I just recently started working with the folks at Authors Reputation Press. They're working on coming up with a movie script. I haven't pulled the trigger yet to go all the way and see if they can pitch it. But when you talk about movies like Backdraft, Ron Howard really did a fantastic job, with the technical side of it, as well as trying to make it so that non-firefighters could enjoy the movie. Same with like Ladder 49. The TV series Rescue Me. They really grasped the firehouse culture, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and I hate to try to put this book up against these fine examples, but I think if the right person was able to, the right producer was able to get a hold of this, I think they could turn this into another one of those movies. But like I said, I hold Backdraft on such a high pedestal. It's hard to imagine even coming to that same level. But watching Backdraft as a firefighter, it's like a rite of passage. I'm very surprised at the few people I come across that are firefighters that haven't seen that movie. But
Yeah. Yeah, I could envision your book absolutely as a series or a movie. And I would actually produce it in this way, where yes, it's about firefighting. And yes, the guys get called to fight fires from time to time, but it's also about the stories of these characters and their lives and what's happening in their lives and the dramatic moments within their lives that don't involve firefighting, and then how they're pulled out of it at a moment's notice to go and respond and help the community. So I do think there is so much there that could be developed and expanded upon. So hopefully, Hollywood, if you're listening, this would be a great film or series, that's for sure. Firefighting is a profession that is filled with danger and unpredictability. Your book really does a great job at being accurate and respectful to the firefighters. And I guess that's because you're part of the culture.
Yes, sir. The last thing I wanted to do with this book is one, embarrass myself, embarrass the the folks that I work with, as well as two. I did not want to paint the fire service in a bad light. Um, you know, it's there's you got to walk to make sure that everybody at the end of the day, when this book is out there, everybody's being represented appropriately, and not in such a way that it's going to cast a bad light on anybody.
Absolutely. Tell me what you hope readers will take away from Local Yokels.
I hope they would just take away that those folks that you probably rarely see if you never call 911 or you never have to call 911. You won't see us, but there are these folks within your community that are taking that extra step, that are providing these services to you, and that like I said, that most of them are your average everyday Joe, and they're not out there toting themselves to be heroes or anything like that. Most folks are going to be quite humble about the job that they have here, and also just to keep everybody aware that just because you have a vehicle, whether it's running a blue light or a red light or a green light for emergency medical services, just because there's no siren, it doesn't mean that they're just trying to take their time to get to the station. These folks are responding to an emergency, and for all it could be one of your loved ones. So please pay attention while you're driving. Pull over for them so that they can get around. So that extra second that you save them by pulling out of their way so that they can get to the station could be the matter between somebody surviving and somebody not.
Absolutely. That is a great reminder to the folks at home who are watching to respect the lights that they see on the cars of volunteer firefighters. And you just might save somebody's life. It might be somebody close to you. And that is an important reminder for sure. Tell me about the writing process for this book. Were there any challenges you faced while writing it? Did it seem to flow effortlessly? Did it at times take you a while to, hammer out different thoughts you had? Tell us about that.
So I am by nature, I don't consider myself like a really good writer. So that was kind of a mental piece that I had to get through. But for the most part, once I got kind of got set on writing this, I think the words just kind of flowed. The stories were right there, and I think probably the hardest thing that I had to do was when I got to a point where I had to stop writing. I had to make sure I was in a spot where I could remember where I left off, whether it's later in the day or, the next day. But, I think trying to find a good spot to stop and remember where I was going to next was definitely the most difficult part. I was jotting notes down and, trying to make sure that, I knew where I was kind of planning on going moving forward with that section. But along the way, I have to, give a shout out to my wife, Sarah. She really was like my editor through this process. As chapters were being completed, I was printing them off. I gave them to her to read, and I was kind of embarrassed when I first told her that I was, writing this. I wasn't sure what she was, what she was going to think, but she was, all in with me on this and gave me pointers, whether it was grammatical stuff or the way something flowed, or said this is too technical. Tried to is there a way that you can rephrase it so the reader can understand it? So because the last thing I wanted to be was like a technical like textbook. So but yeah, like I said, I think just the process I think ran pretty smoothly, and like I said, there was a whole lot of energy and excitement trying to put this stuff down onto paper.
Absolutely. You did a great job. Kudos to your wife for helping you out as well. It's so helpful to have another set of eyes, another brain to look at things, to analyze things, to have a step back from the work that you can't have because you're so embedded in it at the moment. So great job by both of you. The name of the book is Local Yokels, and Paul J. Krause takes a deep dive into the close-knit brotherhood of fire departments, a specific fire department in suburban Connecticut, but it could be anywhere USA. These are local yokels. Yes, they are local heroes for sure. Paul, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight. And don't forget to purchase this wonderful book. The links are below this interview.